It's Tuesday, June 7. In the headlines, Minister Johnson Smith defends government spending for Commonwealth Secretary-General post. Regionally, a Dominican Republic minister murdered. And in sports, JFF General Secretary Dalton Wint resigns. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kamina Johnson Smith, has defended her frequent travel and spending as she seeks the nod for the post of Commonwealth Secretary General. In a press release on Monday evening, Minister Johnson Smith stated that she was nominated by the government of Jamaica as Jamaica's candidate for the position. The press release further quoted her saying, "There are no secrets around the financing of this campaign. We remain fully committed to transparency and accountability. The cost of the campaign will therefore be reported at the campaign's conclusion." End quote. She further states, and I quote, "As I previously advised publicly, travel costs are being met through the budget of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and other support is being provided by the Office of the Prime Minister. Furthermore, no financing has been provided by any other government." End quote. The latest discourse follows Minister Johnson Smith's statement to the Senate on Friday, where she thanked those who support her candidacy. Mrs. Johnson Smith, who is also a senator and leader of government business in the upper house, notes that her being appointed to the post of Commonwealth Secretary General would be a boon to Jamaica.
Every different level, but we have not led. And there is absolutely no reason why a Jamaican should not be in that role.
Senator Johnson Smith says if appointed, she will be committed to working toward further development of regional goals.
I am committed in my campaign to proposing and to supporting the implementation of SDGs across developing countries, members of the Commonwealth, increasing advocacy on climate change and for climate financing, innovative approaches, and moving the needle on those important elements, advancing gender and youth empowerment, harnessing the youth dividend of the Commonwealth, and indeed advancing good governance and good offices role of the Secretariat, its technical capacity, which is known across the Commonwealth, but less so now, because it has become less connected to people.
A decision on the appointment of a Secretary General is to be made during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting later this month in Kigali, Rwanda. Labour and Social Security Minister Carl Samuda says the unemployment insurance scheme is to be submitted to Cabinet for approval shortly. Addressing the ministry's Labour Relations Awards banquet held at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel recently, the minister said the scheme is a priority area for the government as part of efforts to strengthen the national legislative framework for labour market resilience. Unemployment insurance aims to protect employed persons against the risk of job loss, and it facilitates access to partial income during spells of unemployment. Professor Tanisha Stevenson, head of the Department of Physics in the Faculty of Science and Technology at the University of the West Indies, says the Caribbean has a high chance of not having sustainable rainfall by the year 3000 due to climate change. Gabriel Thompson has the details.
The European delegation to Jamaica panel discussion covered the pressing issue of climate change and zeroed in on how it was affecting the Caribbean region. University of the West Indies Professor Tanisha Stevenson says Jamaica is already experiencing just the tip of the iceberg, which is the harsh reality of the shortage of rainfall, among other issues such as more natural disasters.
For us, water availability is crucial, water security, water quality. And so when we look at climate change projections, we use computer models to help us to understand what are the possible future outcomes on our climate. And what we notice is that rainfall, we have seen a drying trend likely to emerge as we approach the end of century, already emerging right now into the end of century. That has implications for water. We're seeing increased temperatures. So already, Archibald, we can speak to climate change that's already observed. Higher temperatures, more extreme temperatures, more intense hurricanes and more frequent hurricanes coming through our area.
Chief Executive Officer of the Jamaica Environment Trust, Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, says it will be a domino effect with a myriad of sectors being affected.
The sectors that we're concerned about would be agriculture, tourism, forestry, water sector, but also health, right? And remember, water is one of those that it affects everything. And so any sector that depends on water quality, water availability, is going to be impacted greatly.
She furthers that in an effort to protect the environment and assist with climate change, agriculture must take precedence, particularly in the post-pandemic era, where countries are meeting the food demand internally first and foremost.
Food security, that's something that we have to be concerned about. If we are not able to produce our own food, we are going to become reliant on imported food. And it's not just Jamaica that is experiencing these issues related to climate change. As Professor Stevenson said, all countries are being affected. And what we're seeing also at the global scale right now with the events occurring are that countries want to focus on their own market, to protect their own market and feed their own people before they export. And so this is a concern as we start to convert our lands to other things for tourism, for housing, that agricultural lands are being lost but are also being impacted by the lack of water, the increased temperatures and so forth.
Denton Alvaranga, a member of Morant and Crofts Farmers Group project, says agriculture, as in the name, plays a significant role in the country's culture, with almost 250,000 citizens being registered as farmers. He noted that farmers in the project are experiencing hardships.
Jamaica is an agricultural country, where 20% of its workforce is engaged in agriculture. Critical. And we have some 245,000 registered farmers in Jamaica. So I want us to look at it, at the devastating impact that climate change can have or is having on the farming sector. Now in Clarendon, North Central Clarendon, there, the Morant Croftsville area, farmers are feeling, they are experiencing the effect of climate change.
The climate change policy framework for Jamaica is intended primarily to support the goals of Vision 2030 by reducing the risks posed by climate change to all of Jamaica's sectors and development goals.
Plans are afoot to ensure proper oversight of restoring heritage sites and other community projects funded by the Tourism Enhancement Fund, the TEF. At the opening ceremony, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett made the announcement about the sustainable rehabilitation of Holland Bamboo Scenic Avenue in St. Elizabeth. He says the move is to ensure transparency and accountability in spending tourism dollars.
We are going to insist that the management systems and structures are in place prior to the implementation of any of these investment projects that we have. So that when we have finished putting taxpayers' money and tourist money, because it's tourist money, they put $20 out of their ticket price for Jamaican tourism to develop. And it is out of that $20 that every tourist pay when they come to Jamaica that we are building out these enhanced activities across Jamaica.
The restoration of the Holland Bamboo Heritage Site will address the damage to the area. The project was undertaken by the Ministries of Tourism and Agriculture and Fisheries through $8.5 million from the TEF.
We had noticed that it was thinning to a certain extent. We had noticed that there was depletion caused by former hurricanes. We noticed that there were fires as well that had burnt out sections of it. And of course, the beauty and value of the attraction was at risk. Of course, we couldn't have that. And therefore, when the Ministry of Agriculture looked at a project to restore and to renew, we were in support of it.
That was Executive Director of the TEF, Dr. Kerry Wallace. The Premier Foundation of Jamaica has received $1 million from the Usain Bolt Foundation to fund the procurement of medical equipment. Raquel Robinson was there and she filed this report.
Founder of the foundation, Sharika Sterling, says the non-profit organization is centered on highlighting mothers who have prenatal births. She is focused on highlighting the lack of resources for these health issues and to assist in filling the medical shortage gap.
The aim of the foundation is for us to come together to understand that there's a need, to understand that there's something that can be done, and to seek ways in which we can help in our own way.
Chairman of the Usain Bolt Foundation, Winston Wilkins, while speaking at the Toyota Jamaica office in Kingston where the event was held recently, also acknowledged the shortage of medical equipment in the public sector for prenatal births.
We do know of the gaps in the medical facilities, the lack of oxygen equipment for our children. And so when the application came to the foundation, we did not hesitate.
Head of Sales and Marketing for Toyota Jamaica, Michael McGrain, then explained how the partnership between themselves and the Premier Foundation came to be.
A couple of years ago, we had been reached out to by Sharika and the Premier Foundation, and I had attended an event alongside the head of marketing at Toyota Jamaica, Tracy Ann Fletcher, and we got to hear Sharika's story. And once you hear the story and everything she's been through and the actions she's taken since, it's hard to say no. You just want to get involved, you want to be a part of this movement, you want to help out the youth of the country. And ever since, we've just really been on a roller coaster just to try and do anything, either small or quite large, to help to save a life. Who can't get behind saving young children's lives?
Sharing statistics regarding prenatal deaths in hospitals, State Minister in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn, notes the need for these equipment. She says Jamaica is not where it needs to be in the sector.
7,000 births happen at Victoria Jubilee annually. 7,000 births. And when you look at the neonate death rate in Jamaica, I think last year it was 11.2 or so, thereabouts, right, doctor? About 11.2 per 1,000 births. So think about that. We are not where we should be. There are some countries, first world countries, that their neonate death rate is 1.5, like in Finland, Iceland, 1.5 per 1,000 live births. And in Jamaica, it's 11.2 per 1,000 live births. And most of those are from premature.
The Premier Foundation is calling out to the public to continue to improve awareness about prenatal births so that the conversation can continue to create more and better opportunities. Reporting for PBCJ News, I'm Raquel Robinson.
In the business report, JMMB Group boasts a profit of $12 billion, plus your regular market updates. Danita Rodney reports.
The National Commercial Bank, NCB, has announced an increase in lending rates effective next month. The loan rates will be adjusted by an average of 1.14% effective July 19. The increase will affect personal and small and medium enterprise loans with variable rates. NCB said the adjustment had become necessary because of the increase in the central bank's policy rate, which has moved up by 4.5% over the last 9 months. Sagicor and JN Bank have also announced they will charge higher lending rates. The JMMB Group saw a net profit of over $12 billion at the end of March 2022. This is a 56% increase in earnings for the regional financial conglomerate. JMMB Group CEO Keith Duncan said the company's performance is due to JMMB's unrelenting focus on client partnership as well as the ongoing impact of the company's regional and business diversification strategy. Duncan also mentioned a 29% revenue growth in the group's banking business line. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, June 6, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.41. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $123.17. The pound sterling traded for $194.57, and the euro sold for an average of $168.16. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Monday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 1,330 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 40 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 1,609 points to close at over 400,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 1,166 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 101 stocks, of which 29 advanced, 54 declined, and 18 traded firm. Stocks advanced for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, 1834 Investments Limited, and Access Financial Services Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and Caribbean Cream Limited. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders. JMMB Group Limited 7.50% with over 5 million units, Portland JSX Limited with 2 million units, and Elite Diagnostic Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, Plico Investment Fund was the only active security trading over 35,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Government of Barbados Bond Series B was the volume leader with over 38,000 shares, followed by Goddard Enterprises Limited, which traded over 7,000 shares. What do global sustainable development and net zero agendas mean for the Caribbean energy transition? That was the theme used for the Caribbean Development Bank 52nd annual meeting held last week. During the meeting, sustainable energy specialist Christopher Strong said that the main issue for most countries in the region is a lack of energy security.
Now, it can be said that the major overarching issue for most BMCs, especially the net energy importers, remains a lack of energy security rooted in overdependence on imported fossil fuels. Emphasis being on overdependence and imported, reflecting risks of overconcentration, exposure to market vagaries, including price volatility. This energy insecurity in the context of small, isolated markets is manifested in supply risk, high costs, unaffordability, and price instability. Energy insecurity, therefore, undermines poverty reduction efforts and threatens the achievement of virtually all sustainable development goals.
Mr. Strong goes on to explain the cost effect of not transitioning to sustainable energy.
Not moving to replace the current fossil fuel energy systems leaves us less climate resilient with higher carbon footprints, presents major risks to poverty reduction efforts and achievement of the SDGs due to the impact of oil markets in most BMCs, exposed to financial fiscal risk which undermine economic resilience efforts, and at risk of being uncompetitive and missing green trade opportunities. This is especially relevant to net energy exporters, considering that high carbon intensity could lead to potential exclusion from certain key commodity markets.
He also lists the opportunities that border member countries would have if they did make the transition.
If we look at the key opportunities that arrive for BMCs from the global agendas, first, as we established, pursuing climate and SDG targets will address other key issues associated with the energy and economic security. The climate and net zero thrust can also unlock significant international support, including financing flows, to help countries to accelerate their transition. CDB will naturally continue to play a significant role in this. Enhance economic diversification.
In regional news, the Dominican Republic's Minister of the Environment and Natural Resources, Orlando George Mira, was shot and killed in his office by his close friend, Miguel Cruz. The office of the president said in a statement on Monday, Mr. Cruz was detained, but no further details were immediately available. Mr. Mira was also an attorney and a founding member of the Modern Revolutionary Party. He was appointed Minister of Environment and Natural Resources in August 2020. Minister of Public Infrastructure Eugene Hamilton, during his address at a press conference recently, says the government of St. Kitts and Nevis intends to construct desalination plants in Basse-Terre and Keys Village, along with drilling for a new well in Cayon.
The water engineer, Mr. Cromwell Williams, to the cabinet, and he explained to us the urgent need for turning to desalination. Desalination, he explained, is important because our underground water reserves is insufficient to supply the ever-growing needs of our islands of St. Kitts and even Nevis. And the reason he indicated that we should go to desalination is that we are at that point where in a few months, years, we will need $2 million gallons extra that we cannot obtain from our soil.
Ordinary Guyanese have added their voice to the calls from the General Workers Union and the APNU-AFC opposition for an urgent increase of the private sector minimum wage, which has stood below $45,000 for the last 5 years. HGP-TV tells us more.
The rationale behind the private sector wage freeze is questionable to a lot of Guyanese who have agreed that workers employed in the private sector should earn more in light of the rising cost of living and other factors. Despite pressure from the General Workers Union, which has been picketing for increased wages for workers over the past 8 weeks, Cabinet has not taken any action in favor of granting the increase. Nightly News on Friday took to the streets to gather from Guyanese how they feel about the current private sector minimum wage of $44,200.
Wages is not about how much you work for, how long you work, how much you will be able to do with what you work. You must be able to have your ration, you must be able to have your house rent, you must be able to have your bills, you must be able to take care of it, you must have an enjoyable life. But Guyanese need more money because they have the oil, they have sugar, they have diamond, they have lumber, they have bauxite, and where the money is going, nobody knows today where the money is going and where the workers are getting nothing.
We're supposed to raise too. Everything gone up, you know, the grocery, everything gone up. Yeah, so everything have to raise. Because they work in the people from morning till night, right? And then they only give them $44,000, they can't work. They're supposed to give them more, give them about $60,000 or so.
Government should do something better for the people because that money cannot do for these people in this country, because look at the cost of living of gas and other commodities. It's very expensive, and so I ask in the government that they could do something better for these people, right, to improve their life and their family.
It's been ridiculous for a long time. And apparently, they don't care. They just don't care. The pension is inadequate. You know, could barely get by on it.
Meanwhile, over at the Ministry of Labor's Brigham Georgetown office, the General Workers Union launched another picketing exercise demanding that Minister of Labor Joseph Hamilton take steps to ensure the recommendation before Cabinet for the increase of the private sector minimum wage from $44,200 to $60,000 is approved expeditiously.
Some CARICOM leaders jetted off on Monday to the United States to attend the 9th Summit of the Americas amidst the call for a boycott of the event over the exclusion of Cuba, Nicaragua and Venezuela. Belize's Prime Minister and chairman of the 15-member CARICOM grouping says he has been informed by the CARICOM Secretary General, Dr. Carla Barnett, that 7 countries had already committed to attend the week-long summit in Los Angeles. Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana and Suriname have publicly announced their attendance to the summit that will be held under the theme Building a Sustainable, Resilient and Equitable Future for the Hemisphere. A grouping of 30 young men, many of whom are from gang-ridden communities in Belize City, will be participating in a 3-day retreat at Machaca Outreach in Toledo this weekend. The initiative is geared towards helping those young men who navigate fatherhood, as many of them have grown up without a father figure in their lives.
We have completed a family needs assessment, and out of that family needs assessment, one of the strongest points, along with the University of Belize, that we recognize is the issue of matrifocality. Matrifocality is whereby women are running the homes and that men have not been there. And we keep seeing a situation whereby children are growing up without fathers. And we have decided to take a major step in ensuring that we try to bridge that gap, to bring our men at the forefront to be fathers. And therefore, as a result of that, we have teamed up with the Band of Brothers from Texas to be able to provide the type of services that we need to create fatherhood and to allow for our men to step up to the plate and become fathers.
Now I see these young men will take a trip down to Machaca, correct?
Yes.
Talk to us about that and what that intends to achieve in terms of having these young men together.
Yeah, well, one of the most important things is the whole issue of culturalization, to be able to have them come together and to be able to teach them about themselves and to let them recognize the fact that, you know what, you came from a father, you came from a mother, and you are rearing children in our society, and therefore it is important for you to also step up to the plate and be a father. At the same token, you need to recognize that spirituality and religion, no matter what people say, plays a great role. We need to recognize that there's a higher power, and we want to give them that opportunity to recognize that and to be able to be fathers and to be able to bring that level of spirituality to the whole concept of their culturalization of their children.
In sports, Jamaica Football Federation General Secretary Dalton Wint has resigned. The decision came on Monday evening after an emergency board meeting. Wint came under pressure to resign after tension between himself and Jamaica's senior men's football team over mismanaged travel arrangements during their trip to Suriname for their CONCACAF Nations League game over the weekend. The Reggae Boys drew with Suriname 1-1. The players have insisted they would not play the return leg against Suriname if Wint was not removed from the role. Meanwhile, interim head coach Paul Hall says the focus is to have the team ready to face and beat Suriname tonight in their second Nations League game at the National Stadium. In his pre-game press conference, Hall said that he's determined to ensure that the game does go ahead and that they complete the job against Suriname, which they were unable to do on Saturday. Meantime, Mr. Hall reportedly told the JFF top brass that he would be resigning with immediate effect shortly after the boys' 1-1 stalemate against their Dutch-speaking counterparts on Saturday. We turn to the cricket pitch, where the Women's Championships gets underway today in Guyana, starting with the CWI T20 Blaze. Initially, the Super 50 Cup was scheduled to get the championship underway from June 7 to 17, with the T20 Blaze to follow from June 19 to June 25. Barbados, who are defending champions in both formats, faced hosts Guyana at 1:30 p.m. Jamaica time in one of 3 fixtures scheduled for the opening day at the Guyana National Stadium. Leeward Islands take on the Windward Islands at 9 a.m., while Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago tangle with the nightcap game starting at 6 p.m. all Jamaica time. Barbados captain Hayley Matthews said being able to stage the championship this year was critical to the growth of women's cricket. Matthews is one of several international players in the side, with the likes of Shakira Selman and Shamila Connell. Still, Barbados will be without the services of marquee all-rounder Deandra Doughton, who is unavailable due to unspecified medical reasons. Jamaica, meanwhile, will field a strong side captained by West Indies skipper Stephanie Taylor and including international teammates Shadeen Nation, Natasha McLean and Chanel Henry. CWI will be streaming matches with commentary via the West Indies YouTube channel. And that's the news on PBC Jamaica. Remember to follow us on all social media pages at PBC Jamaica. Thanks for watching.